We all know it. It makes everything taste better and hides in foods that we didn't know could contain it. Sodium chloride, or more commonly known as salt or sodium, is essential for human life. The human body can't live without some sodium. It's needed to transmit nerve impulses, contract and relax muscle fibers, including those in the heart and blood vessels, and maintain a proper fluid balance. Salt is present in most foods that we eat. It's naturally occurring in small quantities in foods such as meats, vegetables, and fruits. However, there tends to be more salt in animal tissues, such as meat, blood, and milk, compared to plant tissue. Salt acts as a food preservative by reducing water activity of food, which decreases the amount of water available for bacterial growth. It has been estimated that 75% of dietary sodium comes from salt found in processed foods. Sodium has taken a functional role in food manufacturing and preservation, although the amounts used often exceed those required for the daily average intake. At the same time, Canadians are consuming less fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables contain potassium, which typically reduces blood pressure. Highly processed foods are becoming increasingly available and more affordable to the general public.
An article published by Harvard's Medical School notes that when sodium is in short supply, a host of chemical and hormonal messages signal the kidneys and sweat glands to hold on to water and conserve sodium. When you get more sodium than you need, the kidneys flush out the excess by making more, or saltier urine. If they can't get rid of enough sodium, it will accumulate in the fluid between cells. Water inevitably follows sodium, and as the volume of this fluid increases, so does the volume of blood. This means more work for the heart and more pressure on blood vessels. Over time, this can stiffen blood vessels, leading to high blood pressure, heart attack, or stroke. It can also lead to heart failure.
The daily average sodium intake is 1,500 milligrams, not exceeding 2,300 milligrams, which is considered to be the upper level tolerable limit. However, after speaking with registered dietitian at Western, Sarah Perlmutter, the average North American is consuming around 3,400 milligrams per day, which is equivalent to 1.5 teaspoons of salt. By comparison, the Yanomami people of the Amazon rainforest get by on just 200 milligrams of sodium a day, which is 1/10 of a teaspoon of salt. According to Health Canada, exceeding the upper level tolerable limit can pose a health risk to the consumer. This is an issue that is plaguing Western's campus. 196 Western students from all years, faculties, and campuses were surveyed, and 53% of respondents said they purchase at least one meal a week on campus, with 9.2% saying they purchase 7 or more meals on campus each week. The eateries on campus tend to be highly processed, and therefore the foods contain high levels of sodium.
Out of the 196 Western students surveyed, the most popular eatery on campus was Tim Hortons. Some of the most popular food items at Tim Hortons contain very high sodium levels. For example, a regular sized ham and cheddar sandwich contains 1,230 milligrams of sodium. That one sandwich alone consumes more than half of an individual's daily sodium intake. Most students who do get a sandwich get the combo option, which can include a drink and a donut or a muffin. A plain chocolate chip muffin at Tim Hortons has 330 milligrams of sodium. You would think that a sweet baked good would not have that much in it. The second most frequented restaurant on campus was the back part of the Spoke. After investigating common meals, we found that there's 960 milligrams of salt in 4 chicken strips, which equates to 38% of your daily sodium intake, and the French fries contain 1,521 milligrams of salt for a 300 grams serving, which is approximately what you get in an order. This is not including the deep fryer oil that is absorbed or the extra salt added to the meal. 89% of students surveyed were unable to accurately predict how much sodium intake they need daily. The Western campus as a whole tends to have many high sodium products available to its students, and it can be difficult to judge the sodium levels in the choices available. Going forward, students need to be aware of what they're consuming and how a high sodium diet can cause long-term health issues in the future. Hypertension is not common amongst those in their early 20s, but a high salt diet as a young adult can translate into a high salt diet continuing in the future.
Many primary research studies have been conducted over the years to show how high levels of dietary salt can have short and long-term effects on adults. A study conducted by Brown and colleagues found that high levels of dietary sodium are associated with raised blood pressure and adverse cardiovascular health. The study conducted looked at salt intake from countries all over the world. The results showed that sodium intake around the world were well in excess of physiological need. Most adults exceeded over 100 to 200 milligrams per day of salt intake. High sodium intake was also commonly seen in children over 5 years old, and intake of sodium gradually increased with age.
A survey published by the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that Western diets are particularly high in sodium. To examine sodium intake levels and their direct effects on blood pressure, the paper examined a population in Quebec, the Nunavik Inuit, who are also known to have optimal blood pressure. The study got 421 normotensive people. In the beginning, the study predicted that the normotensive population was protected from hypertension, but found the opposite. Blood pressure was elevated, as Indigenous are slowly taking on Western-like diets with more sodium. Therefore, high sodium intake has a deleterious effect on blood pressure in normotensive people. Their traditional ways of eating maintain their blood pressure at a healthy level, sometimes even at a low level. But now that they are in a dietary transition, their blood pressure has changed due to sodium.
According to Western's dietitian, Sarah Perlmutter, students should choose less options on campus and bring more of their own meals and snacks. If one is on campus often and doesn't have time to pack a full meal, bringing snacks can help complement options purchased out and may also save them some money. If one has no choice but to buy foods on campus, there are some options like fresh fruits and veggies, eggs, fresh chicken, roasted nuts and seeds, Greek yogurt, and milk that can be found in the center spot and the grocery checkout in the UCC. Requesting sauces, dressing, or condiments on the side when ordering out is another way to control the amount of sodium. It also helps control the intake of hidden fats and sugars which hide in sauces and condiments that would normally be added to your meal. If the meal you are purchasing out is made in-house versus it being pre-packaged, you could also ask to make substitutions, like using less sauce and more spices or herbs when preparing a stir-fry or a pasta dish.
Choosing foods that are less processed and more in their whole natural state will generally have less sodium. If one is looking to reduce sodium in packaged food, look for less than 5% of sodium in the nutrition label. Products with more than 15% of sodium are considered to be a high sodium product. One can easily reduce sodium added to cooking by using spices, like garlic powder instead of garlic salt, and herbs to flavor food rather than using high sodium sauces like soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, Montreal steak spice, and salt for flavor.
So what are other schools doing about lowering sodium intake? A recent article published in the UB Now notes that the University of Buffalo is working to help students eat healthier by lowering the amount of sodium in food sold on campus. The On-Campus Committee, Campus Dining and Shops, has collaborated with the Sodium Reduction Project, which is part of a $1.97 million grant. The goal of this program is to come up with strategies to reduce sodium consumption in early childhood centers like schools and daycares, and in early adolescents in university and colleges in 4 counties in New York. Some of the things the school has implemented are modifying the grab-and-go items that are sold on campus, like the house-made hummus cups, which now come with pretzel thins instead of traditional pretzels, which reduces sodium levels by 45%. Another implementation was in terms of the deli meat sold on campus. They started selling high-quality, reduced sodium deli turkey to replace regular deli turkey. This reduced sodium levels by 42%. The school has even purchased a vegetable spiralizer to make noodles out of vegetables for students who wish to eat pasta. A benefit of lowering sodium intake on campus is that it is an effective strategy in managing hypertension. And even though students at universities aren't at high risk, they recognize the importance of making healthy food choices young so that these habits can translate into the latter ages. These are all things that Western can implement to reduce sodium intake, and these changes wouldn't come at a high cost for the university or students. From the survey data, approximately 63% of students were unaware of Western having dietitian services available on campus, which is a great way to go learn more about how to have a healthier diet. Approximately 67% of students felt it would be beneficial to be aware of the amount of sodium in the food products they were consuming on campus. This would be a good way for students to be able to recognize how much sodium they are consuming, as it is difficult to estimate without the data available. These changes could help make a healthier campus now and healthier alumni for the future.
Just because food may be higher in salt doesn't necessarily mean it is a less healthy choice. The same applies to foods very low in salt, but possibly high in other ingredients like saturated fat and sugars, which could be more detrimental to health. When looking at foods, we need to look at the big picture and know what amount is right for the individual. It may seem that hypertension will not affect those in their early 20s, but bad habits can easily translate into later life. By making healthier choices now, students can create a bright and healthy future where salt is not the enemy.
Created using Powtoon.